In this guide we are going to install WordPress and use it along with the Simply Static plugin to generate a static website. This website will consist of just client-side files such as HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and images. The main advantages of the static site are security and fast loading time. We can password protect the entire WordPress application because we are just using it to add posts and generate the static site. Check out the blog article if you need more details about any step in the video. A link to the article is in the video description. We'll install WordPress in just a few clicks with one-on-one IONOS hosting, but you could use any host that supports the WordPress requirements. We'll also host the static site with IONOS hosting, but you could use any other host. Amazon Web Services S3 is another good choice for hosting static websites. To install and run WordPress, you'll need a hosting package on your IONOS account. The hosting includes a free domain name, but you can skip registering one if you already have a domain. In this guide, we'll use the same IONOS hosting package to host the WordPress application and the static site. Let's start. Go to the IONOS website and log into your account. I'm going to start by creating a subdomain that will be used for the WordPress application. If you registered your domain name with someone other than IONOS, you'll need to connect it to your IONOS account to use it with IONOS hosting. There are details about connecting an external domain to your IONOS account on their website. Now, we'll install WordPress. Go to Websites and Shops from the main menu. Under Create a new website, click the Select Website button and choose WordPress from the list of available project types. Enter a name for your website and click Create Website. Next, enter a username and password for the WordPress admin account. Now we can select the type of WordPress installation, managed or standard. We're going to go with standard since not all plugins and customizations to the WordPress installation are possible with the managed version. The standard version of WordPress can still automatically update plugins, themes, and WordPress itself. Next, select the domain name to use. If your domain name is not appearing in the list, it may not have been added to your hosting package. You can move the domain to your hosting package in the domain section of your account. After selecting a domain, wait for the WordPress installation to complete. Now we'll set up an FTP user so we can upload and download files to our hosting web space. Go to the hosting section of your IONOS account and you should see an option to create a new FTP user. Create the FTP user and set a password. Then download your FileZilla configuration file for this user. We can import this config file into FileZilla to connect instead of manually typing in the FTP connection details. Download and install the FileZilla FTP application if you don't have it already. Now, open FileZilla. Go to File Import to add the FileZilla configuration file. After importing, you can go to File Site Manager and click the Connect button to connect. Now, I'm going to password protect the whole WordPress application by enabling HTTP basic authentication. This step is optional and the full details are in the blog article. It just requires you to edit your WordPress htaccess file and upload a password file. Navigate to the folder where WordPress was installed and download the htaccess file. Add the following code to your htaccess file. Adjust the code for your hosting settings, then save the file and upload it. You'll also need to create and upload a password file. See the blog article for how to create this file. Now, when we go to the WordPress application in the browser, we will see a dialog box asking for the basic authentication username and password. Go to the admin page of your WordPress application and log in using the admin account details you created when going through the WordPress setup on IONOS. From the menu, select the permalinks page. Check that your permalinks are set up as shown. Select plugins from the menu and click Add New. Install and activate the Simply Static plugin. Next, install and activate the Yoast SEO plugin. After installing Simply Static, a new menu entry called Simply Static should have appeared in the admin menu. Click it to configure the plugin. Under the General tab, we can adjust how the URLs in the static site appear. Select Absolute URLs and enter the URL that will be used to go to your static website. This will probably be your main domain name or a subdomain such as blog.yourdomain.com. I'm going to use the subdomain staticsite.endingsoon.gg, which I'm going to set up later on in the guide. If you change the protocol to HTTPS, remember to enable an SSL certificate. In the Delivery Method setting, change the selection from zip archive to local directory. When we generate the static site, all the site files will be placed in the directory we'd specify below. We can then download these files via FTP and transfer them to wherever we are going to host the static site. Create a new folder using your FTP client and add the folder's absolute path to the local directory setting field. I created a folder called Site Static Files to store the files in. Next, go to the Include/Exclude tab of the Simply Static plugin settings page. In the Additional URLs text box, add a URL shown in the video. Replace WordPress-demo.endingsoon.gg with the URL to your WordPress application. Note that this is your WordPress application URL, not your static site's URL. Now, go to the Advanced tab of the Simply Static plugin settings page and enter your HTTP basic authentication username and password if you enabled it earlier. That's it for configuring the Simply Static plugin. We now have a WordPress installation that can be used as a static site generator. We can go ahead and generate the static site. However, you may wish to add some posts and install a theme first. There are many free themes to choose from. I'm going to upload and install the Breek theme, which is a paid theme available from Theme Forest. Activate and configure your theme after installing it. We can look at the WordPress application in the browser to preview what the static site should look like after we generate and upload it. Next, we'll set up the domain name and web space for the static site. I'll start by creating the subdomain staticsite.endingsoon.gg for the static site. Then I'll create a folder in my IONOS hosting web space for the static site and connect the subdomain to it. Skip this step if you're hosting your static site elsewhere. Select Domains and SSL from the IONOS menu and then select the domain that is going to go to your static site. The domain name should be on an IONOS hosting contract that has web space. See the blog article if you need help adding a domain name to an IONOS contract. If you're going to use a subdomain to go to the static site, go to the Subdomains tab and select the subdomain you are going to use. After selecting the domain or subdomain, you can view the domain's destination under the Details tab. Here there should be an option to use your domain or adjust destination. Click this option and then select Connect to a web space. Now create a new folder at the top level of your web space and click Save. Now, go back to the WordPress application and go to the Simply Static Generate page. Click the Generate Static Files button. If everything went well, your static site files should now be in the folder specified when configuring Simply Static. Connect to your hosting again using FTP and download the static site files. Now navigate to the folder we created and connected to the domain for the static site. Upload your static site files to this folder via FTP. Enter the static site URL in your web browser to go to the static site. We'll upload the following additional files: a fav icon in 2 different formats, a robots.txt file for search engine crawlers, and a htdocs file. The htdocs file contains a redirect for our sitemap, This is the static site after adjusting the theme in the WordPress application and regenerating the static site. This is the sitemap index file that can be submitted to Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools. Visit Google PageSpeed Insights and enter the URL of your static site to test your website speed. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you found this guide useful. Visit the blog article for further improvements to make to your website.